Most people think they're stuck because they need more clarity. They don't. They need to close a loop. There's a decision somewhere in your life that you keep not making. And every day that you leave it open, it keeps taxing your brain. And that is why you can feel exhausted before you have even done anything today. Because your brain is still carrying what you have not resolved. It may be an offer that you keep tweaking but never actually send out, or a project you keep alive because ending the project would force the next decision. So you keep gathering information, you Google things, you keep thinking it through, you keep waiting for the decision to feel obvious. But the decision you do not make, it does not disappear. It keeps running in the background, and it uses up precious mental capacity that you would need for everything else in your life. Hi, I'm Gwen Bach. I have a master's degree in applied neuroscience, and I'm the founder of Applied Brain Lab, where I study how modern environments shape and influence decision-making in ambitious professionals and business owners. So in this video, I'll show you why an unmade decision is not neutral and why many smart people are especially good at keeping decisions open, and how to use a method I call the smallest real decision to reduce the load and start moving forward again. Because before you can get unstuck, you need to understand what your brain is still carrying in the background. And here's the thing about an unmade decision. It does not sit quietly in the shelf while you get everything else done in your life. It is part of your cognitive system. Your brain keeps on tracking it. Not always consciously, and it's nothing loud, but it remains open. And open loops consume resources. Tank et al. Found in 2025 that holding unresolved information in working memory imposes ongoing cognitive demands, and it can reduce decision quality. So the decision you're carrying is not just a thought, it's a process running. Masikampo and Baumeister showed something similar from a slightly different angle. Unresolved goals can interfere with executive function. And even when we're not consciously thinking about the goal itself, the part that matters is your brain does not carry what is urgent. It also carries what is unfinished, what has not been decided, and what might require a response from you. So the feeling of being stuck is not always about the whole situation. Sometimes it's about a decision underneath that situation that has not been made yet. And most people misunderstand that. They assume decision avoidance means that they're weak or lazy or indecisive, but that is not what research shows us. Behrens and Funke identified two main forms of decision avoidance. The first is deferral, where you postpone a choice. And the second one is refusal, where none of the available options feel acceptable or right to us. And this distinction matters because many of the decisions that keep us professionals and business owners stuck are not simple choices. They are trade-off decisions. Stay in the company and something continues to drain, but leave and something becomes uncertain. Commit to this project and lose optionality, but wait and you lose momentum. That particular kind of mental weight where you keep turning the decision over and over and over to neither side. And it's not weakness, it's your brain trying to resolve real consequences on both sides. Cheng and Gonzalez, 2018, found that decisions involving conflicting values or difficult trade-offs increased perceived difficulty and brain effort. So the decisions that stay open the longest, they're not the obvious ones. There are the decisions where something meaningful is at stake for you. And for many of us, this gets even more complicated because decisions are rarely isolated. A work decision is often also an identity decision. A career decision can be a status decision, and business decisions often have financial and relational and self-respect consequences all at the same time. So what looks like procrastination from the outside may actually be just an overloaded system trying to calculate the many consequences all at once. And modern work environments make it worse. Ying et al. 2025 found that information overload contributes to confusion, which increases decision deferral. And that makes so much sense, because when you have too much information available, there's always one more thing to check, or one more angle to look at, and one more possible consequence to think about. And if you're a smart person, you can keep decisions open for a very long time while making it look responsible. You can tell yourself you're being careful, that you're being thorough, and that you're waiting until you know enough. But at some point, more information stops increasing clarity. It starts protecting indecision. And if you're recognizing one of your own decisions here, this is exactly the kind of thing I work through with in one-on-one sessions with people. So you can book a one-on-one consultation, and we don't look at abstract things here, but it's something very specific, maybe that stays open with you while it is overloading your system. And we can look together at what the next real smallest decision can be. And if you want to have help working through one of those decisions, the link to book is in the description below. But now let me show you the method that you can start with right now. So there's another layer here that matters for exactly the kind of person that you probably are watching this video. McGarrity, Palmer et al. Found in 2019 that self-critical thinking predicts indecision. And that is important, because the same high standard self-monitoring thinking that makes you good at your work also makes decisions harder to make, because deciding means accepting that you could choose the wrong thing. It means that giving up the fantasy that there is still the perfect option somewhere out there. It means moving from analysis into consequence. And that is often the moment where we delay, not because we don't know enough, but because deciding would make the next step real. So the loop becomes heavier, and you're already overloaded. And inside that overload, there is a decision that has not been made. And that unmade decision keeps occupying mental capacity, and you need it. And that extra load makes it harder to think flexibly, and reduced flexibility makes decision making harder. So you defer, and because you defer, the decision stays open. You can see the loop here, and because it stays open, it keeps overloading the system. Wang et al. 2024 found that avoidance can reduce immediate distress while increasing long-term cognitive burden. And that's the trap. Not deciding gives you short-term relief from the discomfort, but the system still has to carry the unresolved thing. Chachan et al. In 2024 found that indecision and overthinking often co-occur, contributing to rumination, mental clutter, and difficulty making later decisions. So one unmade decision does not only cost you that one decision, it can make the next decision harder too. And that is why some stuck states feel so confusing. You think you're trying to solve the whole situation, but underneath it, your brain may be waiting for one decision to be made. And until that something is made, the system cannot fully reorganize or reset. So here's the reframe. Feeling stuck is often not about the situation itself. It's about the gap between where you are and where a decision would take you. And that gap stays open as long as the decision stays open. The decision does not have to be perfect, and it definitely does not have to be permanent, and it does not have to solve world hunger. But some decision has to be made, because an unmade decision, again, is not neutral. It has a cost, and that cost, you pay it in attention, flexibility, and clarity. So here's the method, the smallest real decision. Get a piece of paper, and we don't do it digitally. Paper First, write down a situation that feels stuck, not the entire history or the whole emotional landscape, just the situation in very few plain sentences. Then ask, is there a decision inside this situation that I have not yet made? And not what is the whole big perfect answer or what should I do with my whole life? Just, is there a decision here that I'm not quite making yet? And write that decision down in one sentence. And here are some examples. I have not decided whether to continue this project, or I have not yet decided whether to send the offer, or I have not decided whether I'm willing to keep this the same way. The sentence matters because while the decision stays vague, your brain treats it like a cloud. And once you put it into one real sentence, it becomes something you can actually work with. Then ask the second question. What is the smallest real version of this decision that I could make today? Again, not the final version, not forever, the smallest real version. And this is where many smart and capable people get trapped. They think a decision only counts if it resolves everything. But often your system does not need a total resolution. It needs one real commitment at the next smallest level. So instead of, do I shut the whole business down? The smallest real decision might be, for the next 30 days, I am not deciding the entire future. I am deciding whether this one piece is still worth continuing. Instead of, do I keep on working in this project? The smallest real decision might be, am I going to finish this one task this week? And if I still do not want to continue after that, then I will make the larger decision from that evidence and not from the mental fog I'm in right now. And that is what I mean by the smallest real decision. Not a fake decision, not some vague intention. I mean a concrete commitment that changes something small enough you can make it today, but real enough to reduce the load. Anne et al. 2026 found that complex environments increase perceived risk and contribute to decision postponement. And that fits the wider pattern because the cost of not deciding is never neutral. It's active and it keeps on loading the system. So a partial decision made is often less expensive than a full decision deferred. You're not trying to force certainty, but what you're doing is you reduce the cost of the unresolved thing. And there's a big difference here. Forcing certainty creates pressure, but reducing unresolvedness creates movement. So the 3 lines are, the situation that feels stuck is, the decision inside the situation that I have not yet made is, and the smallest real version of this decision that I can make today is. And make it visible. Write it on paper. Put it in your calendar. Maybe talk to someone. Send a message to someone. Close the document and choose what you're no longer evaluating. Because decisions do not only live in your head. They have to change the environment in some small way. Because otherwise your brain keeps treating them as open. And that is the point. You do not need the perfect decision. What you need is the smallest real decision that reduces the load. So enough for movement to begin. And in the next video, I want to challenge one of the most common pieces of advice about getting unstuck. Just take action. It sounds right. But under the wrong conditions, it can make the stuck state worse. And I'll show you why and what to do instead.